So, I meant to have this video done months ago, and then time got away from me, and here we are. Hello, my name is Zack, aka the Dr. Cog, and a few months ago, I asked you to ask me questions about these guys, the Owl House puppets. This might be a long video, so I might split it into two parts, but I'll let editor Zack decide that. By the way, I'm probably going to mispronounce your username, and I apologize in advance. But without further ado, let's get started. A few of you asked, why puppets? You know, what started the whole puppet thing to begin with? For example, Zeez Vov Gee 2 says, super excited for more puppets and original content. Behind the scenes will be super interesting. I'm especially interested in how you went about set design. If I have any questions though, it would be, why puppets? Do you have prior experience making puppets? Some backstory will be really cool. As always, can't wait to see more from you. If there's anything I can do, just hit me up. Thank you, Zeez. Also from unrandomxd9152, how did it occur to him to make these little shorts of the Owl House? And KitB3363, how did you make the puppets? Also, how did you start it all? This actually all came about because of Zeez Vov Gee. Back in November 2022, he posted on his community tab on YouTube, he was hosting an Owl House fan video contest, and he was asking for submissions that had to be 30 seconds or less. And I kid you not, the first thought, and the only thought, that popped into my head in that moment was, make an Owl House series recap, everything from season 1 to now, which at the time, thanks to them, the first episode of season 3 had just come out. But make a series recap of everything up to now with sock puppets. And I said to myself, absolutely not. That's going to take way too much time. I can't get it done. Because when I saw the community post, I believe I only had about 3 weeks. So I said, no way, absolutely not. I don't have enough time. I even took a few days to try to come up with a different idea, trying to convince myself not to make this video. And it's the only idea I had, and I couldn't let it go. And I just had to do it. So I was like, fine, I guess I might as well get started on it because I only have, less than 3 weeks now. So sure, why not? So people started just finding the video. Even before it was featured on Zeez's channel, people were finding it and people really liked it. And I was blown away by the number of people that watched the video and the response. It was incredible. And everyone was so nice and so supportive. And people were asking like, are you going to make more puppet videos? When's the next puppet video? And so I thought, if people are excited and want to watch this, I definitely want to keep making it, so might as well. So that's how it all started. It all came from Zeez hosting a fan video contest and my dumb brain only coming up with Owl House puppets. And when Zeez did feature the video on his channel, he said some really kind words and was just so supportive. And I still really appreciate that. Zeez, if you're watching this right now, first of all, thank you for giving smaller creators like myself a platform to showcase our work. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your encouragement of us and our work. It ignited a fire in me to keep making more videos. So thank you, Zeez. I really appreciate it. Also, to answer your question about production, everything was made by me. All of the puppets, the costumes, the props. Some scenes have a little bit going on in the background, like the Coven banners, but for the most part, it was just shot against the wall. Behind me, I had thought about making backgrounds for the video, but I realized quickly that was going to take way too much time and be too much work. So backgrounds were a little bit lacking, but everything else I feel like is okay. A few of you asked about the budget of the Owl House Puppets Season 1 recap, specifically Fictition of Grandeur 2387 asks, how much did you spend on fabric for the puppets? And Sonker Official asks, what kind of budget were you using? Were other people involved? Honestly, I stopped keeping up with how much I was spending on material because it was a lot. As far as budget, there was no set budget in mind. It was just whatever money I happened to have at the time. And even then, I still spent way more than I probably should have. It might not look like it, but craft supplies are really expensive, and the cost added up really quickly. To answer your question, a lot. I spent a lot on material. Were other people involved? No, just me. I paid for everything myself, and I still have not financially recovered. Nightmare Shadow 1420 says, really hoping for a giraffe puppet at some point. That would be a sick sight. In all seriousness, could we vote on which puppet to make next? Like Rain, V, Darius, Steve, or Hunter without a mask. It would be really funny to have like a hyper-realistic giraffe puppet. I might have to put that into season 2. As far as voting goes, yeah, absolutely. I would like to include all of you more. Maybe I could do a poll on which puppet I should make next, or which puppet would you like a deep dive on. But yeah, keep an eye on the YouTube community tab. Maybe I could throw some polls up there from time to time. I had a few questions about my favorite part of the video, specifically from Vanessa Sanchez 682. What was your favorite part of doing the video? As well as Omarion 1760. What was the best part about doing the video? My favorite part was definitely writing the script and working with the actors. For the script writing process, I had a few ideas going into it, but then I actually sat down with my laptop and I watched the entire season 1 of The Owl House again, and I'm making notes on my laptop while watching, and I'm pausing to write down just anything I could think of. I had 2 documents going. One was like the official script, and I'm writing scenes as I'm watching The Owl House. Then a separate document was just like bits and pieces or like ideas. If there's a quote that I want to get word for word, I'm writing that down, or even just a theme of the episode or just a moment from the episode I wanted to make sure to put in my season 1 recap. I'm just taking notes, writing down anything that I might end up using. So it was just a lot of fun. It was very relaxing. It was nice just to dump all my thoughts onto a document and then go back later and sift through it and then organize those thoughts into scenes and then organize those scenes to follow the episode listing of season 1. One of the lines I had written down at the very beginning of the writing process was, "Ah, son of a witch!" And I had no idea where it was going to go or what the context was. So that's an example of an idea I just wrote down, and then as I'm going through the script, just decided where it needed to fall. There was one scene I remember. It was the aftermath of Amity and Luce being inside Willow's mind, and I wrote an entire scene and then immediately deleted it because it was just too much. It was too much exposition. The joke wasn't that funny. I felt like I didn't need it. I feel like it just slowed the pace of the video down, and I just changed the scene to be a meme.
This is fine.
And I really enjoyed working with the actors. There's actually a question later about the actors, so I'll come back to them. But what an amazing group of people. I still can't believe I convinced these incredibly talented people to lend their vocals for my silly puppet video. I'm still just in awe of everyone I got to work with. Everyone brought it. They did such a good job. I'm really proud of my team. Another question I got asked a lot was, how long does it take to make a puppet? For example, Axolotl Amity asked, how long does it take to make a puppet? Cat XOX8902 asks which puppets took the longest and shortest time to make. And Chico FNAF 7114, how long did it take you to make the puppets? The one I'm curious on the process of is the Owl Beast Eda. It just depends on the puppet and how complex it is and how much time I happen to have in the moment. If I'm answering which puppet took the shortest amount of time to make, I actually made Willow and Gus in the same day. I remember I had a Saturday and I spent all day, like literally all day, just working on those 2 puppets. Now on weekends it was a little bit easier, but during the week I'm working a full-time job. I can only work on puppets at night, and some puppets took a few nights to finish. For some reason the Lilith puppet, this is the 3rd Lilith that I made. I made 2 others and messed them up and had to start over completely, which was very frustrating. But I would say on average, most of the characters took probably 2 to 3 nights or an entire day if I had an entire day set aside and planned just for working on puppets. I feel like Owl Beast Eda actually did take the most time. From the day I started Owl Beast Eda to when I finished, it was 10 days. I'm sure in that time frame I probably stopped and took a break and didn't work on anything at all. But the Owl Beast Eda definitely was tricky and took some figuring out. So a lot of you were interested in the puppet making process, and I'm actually planning on making a separate series where I just take one character and do a deep dive into what all went into that one puppet, and making that a separate series. So keep an eye out for that series. But as far as Beast Eda is concerned, I'll just go over this really quick. She is actually 2 pieces. She is this sock. That looks so funny to see on camera. She's this sock with the button eyes and the fangs and the lip. And then her body is a separate piece. And this is actually made with a piece of foam. I don't know if you can see up in there. Yeah, there you go. You can see there's foam, there's cardboard, there's a lot of glue, there's a lot of tape in there. But this is a solid piece that goes on top of the sock puppet. So yeah, that took some time to figure out, and she is difficult to puppeteer as well. So there you go. Speaking of individual characters, Jessica's a Laser 1207 asks, how'd you make the king puppet? Blue Pearl 8675 asks, what did you use to make King's head? And Faith Zulu 0618 asks, how'd you make the Hoot? So in that video series I talked about, I'll go more in depth on the King puppet and the Hooty puppet, but specifically King's head, that's actually made out of half of a hamster ball, a plastic hamster ball that came apart in 2 pieces, and actually half of the hamster ball is King's head and the other half is Hooty's face. And I did make a tiny little baby king over here. I realized once I started shooting that I made the king puppet full size, as you can see, but when he's standing next to other characters, he needs to be smaller. Now there's a trick called forced perspective, where basically if you have one object closer to the camera, it looks bigger, and you have one object further away from the camera, and one looks bigger, one looks smaller. But I realized there were some scenes where Luce picks up King and holds him, or he's on her back, and for those I decided to make a smaller version of King so he could be right next to her and he wouldn't look too large. And for Hooty, his body was actually a solid tube of cardboard, because I made him for the 30-second Owl House puppet video, and he just shoots into the frame, and that's it. But when it came time to make the season 1 recap, I actually removed the cardboard and then just glued him back together. That way he could be more, flexible, and I could move my arm around and had a lot more movement with Hooty. Another question I got a lot of was, what puppet was my favorite? From @Feven0242, out of all the Owl House puppets you made, which was your favorite out of the bunch? From Jax the Half Hot Boy, is there a certain puppet you like more than the others? And from Tanshi1995, again I probably pronounced that wrong, what was your favorite puppet? My favorite puppet is definitely Hooty. I think that he turned out great. He's a lot of fun to puppeteer. I feel like I can get a lot out of him. Even though there's not a flappable mouth, I can get a lot of movement out of him and get a range of emotions in a weird way. So he's definitely a lot of fun to puppeteer. Question from Semethinith8492. I probably pronounced that wrong and I'm sorry. They ask, I remember one scene where there were more than 2 puppets at a time on screen. How'd you achieve that? There were a few techniques for having multiple puppets on screen at a time. My partner Kara came over, and she helped me puppeteer a few scenes. So some of the characters are her and I puppeteering at the same time. For some of the scenes, I would shoot a character by itself, and then shoot another character by itself, and then splice the 2 scenes together and try to blend the seam in between so it looks like one shot with multiple characters in the same shot. I did that multiple times throughout the video. That was a technique that I feel like it worked well for the most part. I feel like some scenes you can still see the seam in between the 2 spliced together. But for the most part, I thought that it worked, and it made my life a lot easier. Another technique for getting multiple characters on screen, if the character is still and they're not moving their mouth, I would put the puppets on a can of spray paint. And that was really helpful. If they were in the background, not moving, not speaking, I would just put them on a can of paint, put them on a tripod or on a stand. So to help fill the head out, for some of them, I would actually just put a piece of foam, like the size of my fingers, in the puppet, and put a piece of foam down here to mimic my thumb. so it looked like there might be a hand in the puppet. So sometimes it was just scrap pieces of foam to fill that out, but I also made what I call puppet skulls. Now, a puppet skull, I took a plastic glove, I covered the glove in tape, then I cut the glove off my hand, and I filled it full of the fiber fill, and I taped it back up, so I had like a mold, essentially, of my hand and of my fingers, and it was flexible, and I could just shove it into the head of a puppet, and it would kind of fill it out. Multiple techniques like that were used during the Season 1 puppet recap. Question from Cat252. What would you say was the most time-consuming part of this project? Do you think it was definitely worth it, or something you could have done away with? I would say probably just making everything, all of the characters, all the costumes, all the props, and that's definitely not something I can cut corners on, you know? I wanted to take my time, and I wanted to get the characters to look good. Another time-consuming part of the project was definitely the editing, specifically the lip syncing. At the time, I might film a puppet, talking like this, then I get the actor's dialogue and it sounds a lot different, so then I have to edit the puppet, to talk slower or talk faster, depending on the actor's performance. So getting the lip sync to match the lip flaps that I performed on the day was very time consuming and very frustrating, and there were some times when I just couldn't get it exactly right and I had to just let it be. I had to just let it go. From Dragony Panda Productions 2847, was there any annoying issues during production that just made you grind your gears? There were a few. There were a few gear grinding incidences. Two in particular I want to talk about. One while filming and one while editing. I'll talk about the filming one first. Now, let me just say, with any video production, not just puppet related, but any video production, things are not going to go according to plan. You can be as prepared as you possibly can, and something's going to go wrong, but that's just video production. It's to be expected. But for this scene in particular, I knew I would need more help. So I had Kara and my mom actually come over to help me shoot. My mom actually came over 2 separate days, and her, Kara, and I shot some of the more technical scenes. This scene in particular was the scene where Lucian King discovers that Eda is the Owl Beast. My original plan for that scene, I bought these lights, these like orb lights, specifically for that scene. And those were going to be the light glyphs that Luce activates, right? So the plan was to put these lights on a fishing wire, and after Luce, taps the light glyph, bring the lights up, have them, hover around, have them hover towards the camera, have them come back, and that was going to be the light glyph. The orb lights on camera, though, looked really bad. So we'd already shot the beginning of the scene. We shot, King running up to Luce, the lights going out, King being scared, running behind Luce, and we needed to film with the lights. And we fought with the lights, trying to get them to look better, but it just didn't look good on camera. So ultimately, I scrapped the lights. So now, we had to make a decision, what do we use for the light glyph? But that's being a director, it's problem solving. What we ended up doing was shining a flashlight directly at the camera, because if you shine a flashlight directly at a camera, it creates a really cool, bright orb effect. But the tricky thing was, if the flashlight turned ever so slightly, you lost that lighting effect, and you could see that it was a flashlight. So Kara is on a step stool above me with the light on a stick, trying to get just the right angle to move it up and down. My mom was only there for a few hours, and so I'd planned to get multiple scenes done that day while I had more help. But all of our time was spent on that scene. Not even the whole scene, not counting the bits with Lego Eda and Owl Beast Eda, which I shot by myself separately, but just the bits of that scene with Luce, King, and the light took us 3 hours to film. But we got it, and I think that it looks a lot better than my original plan. It was very frustrating at the time. Now, the audio issue that grinded my gears was the lip syncing. So, when I filmed, I'm puppeteering, I'm doing the performance. What I should have done while filming was I should have played the audio from the actual cast member, and while shooting, I should have tried to puppeteer the lips to match the performance. But since I shot a lot of this by myself to save time during filming, I just did my own performance, and I just flapped the puppet's lips as I normally speak. My sister is the head of the Emperor's Coven, and she's been trying to recruit me for years. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before she brings an entire army of Coven Scouts here to arrest me.
My sister is the head of the Emperor's Coven, and she's been trying to recruit me for years. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before she brings an entire army of Coven Scouts here to arrest me.
I don't feel like I'm a very good audio editor, so going through each second piece by piece and trying to make it match the puppet was very frustrating. By the way, that's no slight against the actors. That was all on me. Again, I should have taken the time to listen to their audio while filming and go ahead and try to make the puppet performance match their audio while filming. That's on me. I was trying to get through the filming quicker. I spent more time editing audio. That was on me, not on the actors. They did a fantastic job, and I definitely learned my lesson for next time. Odd Code Lyoko 8280 asks, the live stream would actually be nice. Maybe you could make Hunter or Edric puppet. They're my two favorite characters. Maybe something in Season 2, of course, it's about Hunter again. Basically, would Hunter be in Season 2? Wait, silly me, he was in Season 2. But that was on the Owl House show, so yeah. Also, if you think about it, maybe Edric could call Amity Mittens again, or him and Imra could embarrass her in front of Luce. Also, another question, will there be any ships in here? Because I'm just curious. I mentioned a few months back the possibility of doing a live stream. I'm still considering it. I'm not sure if I have the proper setup for it, but I'm looking into it. There will definitely be a lot of Hunter in Season 2, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned Edric calling Amity Mittens, because in Season 1, I actually wrote a scene where Edric calls Amity Mittens and embarrasses her, and I had to cut the scene, but I do want to go back and film the scene and post it on the channel. There's a few scenes from Season 1 recap I had to cut. I want to go back, I want to film the scenes and just post them on the channel independently as, Season 1 deleted scenes. So that's something I think I'll work on next after this Q&A video. I want to go back and make some more puppets. I want to film some more scenes from Season 1 and post those deleted scenes. As far as ships go in my puppet videos, of course, Lumini, Raeda, Hunt Low. As far as any out-of-the-box ships, maybe. I don't know. Depends on how the writing goes for Season 2. Maybe Darius and Alador? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. From Mulaney Castilla 6544, I hope I pronounced that right, are making the other season of The Owl House. Yes, definitely. I want to do a Season 2 and a Season 3 recap as well. It's going to take some time. It's probably going to take a lot of time. The Season 1 video took me over 6 months to finish. I'm hoping 2 and 3 won't take that long, but it probably will. These videos, it might not look like it, but they're actually really expensive, and they do take a lot of time. But it's definitely going to happen eventually. I have ideas for Season 2 and Season 3 already, so I'm looking forward to writing the script. From Only Raeda the Gotcha Kid, will there also be more Enzo Gabriel the Collector in the Puppet series? Can we get some Raeda content? Will there be Noceda sibling type things? Yes, and yes. From Steve Helly Eater, do you like chickens? Do you mean as animals or to eat? Because yes.